Hey, it's Mike Crawford. Welcome to the Young Jerks. We start off with A.G. Healy talking to Jim Brody on the WGBH Boston Public Radio, I guess the show is called. Very interesting. She just seemed like she didn't know what was going on with her endorsement when we had talked about it more than a week ago with one of the guests that we have. We have a lot of great guests. This is a great show tonight. I'm very blessed to have the guests that we have on the show tonight. We've got a very big show. We're going to be speaking to a candidate who was just endorsed by Bernie Sanders and also Congressman Ayanna Pressley. We're very happy about that. We're going to have him on very shortly, a half hour. His name's Juan. Juan Jaramillo. I think I got it right. We'll find out from our first two guests because they know all about Juan. I'm really happy to have back Calla Walsh and
Hi.
Dan Totten. Hello to you both.
Hi.
And instead of me stumbling through it, I'm just going to have to start with Calla since she's been here. I know you both actually, I'm pretty sure, have been here. I know, Dan, I've known you for quite a while. But Calla, we'll have you start. Tell us who you are, first of all.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Calla Walsh, she, her pronouns. I live in Cambridge, and I am a political organizer in Massachusetts. So recently worked on the Act on Mass Transparency campaign, and right now helping reelect Julia Mejia to Boston City Council at large. I'm really excited to be here again.
Who you kind of talked to on the first time we had you on the show, you had kind of a conversation going on with Julia, who's a friend of our show. We've had her on quite a few times through her win, her very close win. I think it was one vote in the end. There was a recount. I think she was up by 6 votes first time, and then like 1 vote she won by. She's been amazing, and now you're working for her officially. Did you kind of like break the ice with her on the show? Had you talked to her? I think you had talked to her before, maybe.
Yeah, we'd connected before, but I appreciate the show helping me strengthen our connection. And yeah, I'm really excited to be working for her. I think she's a really unique politician and that she's just herself. And that really humanizes her in a way that allows her to connect with constituents and people that a lot of politicians struggle to do because she is just so personal and so herself and unafraid to voice her opinions.
Yeah, she's amazing. She was on MTV way back in the day. I remember seeing her on MTV and was really excited about what she did there when I was a youngster. She was pretty young back then too, but she's amazing. But since you also came on the show, like one of the things I love is all the information and knowledge you brought to that last show, and got a lot of listeners, a lot of people listening. And you shared quite a bit of information about this Valentino. They call him Tino Capobianco. Is that how you say it? Yes.
Yep.
He is or was running for the state rep seat. He had gotten the endorsement of A.G. Healy and Joe Kennedy and quite a few politicians in the state of Massachusetts. But even before they gave their endorsement, you had come on our show. And even more importantly than our show, you had tweeted, and everybody in the universe saw your tweets. I mean, you get a lot of retweets. I mean, and it was kind of exposed, like the stuff that he had put out there in the past, which was really ridiculous. Jim Brody just read one of them. And A.G. Healy now still endorsed him, and then basically took back her endorsement this week when a lot more bad information came out through WGBH and Tory Bedford's reporting. What is your kind of response to A.G. Healy listening to that clip?
Yeah, I mean, first, I just want to say I really appreciate and admire all the people who came forward. It takes a lot of bravery to step up and share something, especially when the person who's harmed you is someone in such a powerful position like Tino was and still is. So I think we really owe it to them that they were willing to stand up and speak their truth. And yeah, as to more Healy's comments, I know she said that she hadn't, heard any concerns about Tino or seen these tweets before she made her endorsement. But if I, like a 16-year-old girl who spends too much time on Twitter was able to find this information, you'd think that, the political team of one of the most powerful politicians in the state would also do like some basic research before making an endorsement and see that there are really predatory and concerning comments about women in those posts. So I don't think there's any excuses for making that endorsement. The tweets that I shared back in December should have been a major red flag. And it also just seems to be pretty common knowledge, based on my conversations with people in Winthrop, that this guy is not someone that, young women want to be around. He is known to have this sort of behavior. And I think that all politicians should do their due diligence before making an endorsement. And Maura Healey and Joe Kennedy don't get an exception.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. I just it's funny you say a 60-year-old. I'd say, like, if I know about it, someone who basically walks dogs all week, I'm doing something else, and I knew all about it from Calla, like everybody else. Like Jim Browdy knew about it apparently. So we also have Dan Totten here. Definitely want to bring up Dan. Dan, welcome to the show. Tell us about yourself, who you are. I've known you as an aide for the best city councilor probably in America. He's been on the show a bunch of times, a good friend of the show. Tell us about yourself, because you're very active as well. I've known you from some of the causes we worked on together, cannabis in Cambridge, for instance. So tell us about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Dan Totten. I use he, his pronouns, and I'm a resident of Central Square in Cambridge, also a democratic socialist, and I kind of do a little bit of everything. I'm active. I'm active at City Hall as part of my work, but also active in sort of more a statewide context, and even in a neighborhood context as well. It's been great working with you and all the other activists on advancing racial equity in the cannabis industry, and I'm just really glad to be here to be able to kind of connect some of the dots around what's going on and, how these things that we're experiencing really all fit together.
Awesome. And we've already had one comment I want to throw up there. It's, I think it's basically just updating, letting us know that there's been quite a few even new, every moment there's a new endorsement of Juan, and there's quite a few. Number one is Our Revolution, Massachusetts endorsed him. Maybe Our Revolution nationally endorsed him. I'm not sure. It says Our Revolution, but I know Massachusetts definitely did their branch, which is huge. Michelle Wu has endorsed him, Ayanna Pressley, Mike Conley, Sonia Chang Diaz, Maria Robinson, a guy I like a lot, Andy Vargas, another guy I like a lot, Senator Jamie Eldridge. They're all recent Juan, I'll make sure I say his last name right, Jaramillo endorsements. He's killing it, right? And you're also working on that campaign too, right, Calla?
Yeah, I'm just volunteering as much as I can before the election, but Juan is like a once-in-a-lifetime candidate, so really glad to have the chance to support him.
And I saw you change your handle on Twitter, your very popular handle, which is at Calla Walsh. Should I say Calla right? I said Calla right? Yep. People got to make sure they say your name right?
Not everyone.
Jim Browdy said it right?
Yeah, I was actually surprised by that.
Really? A pro like him? I'd be surprised I get it right, and that Jim, he would get it right, I would think. But anyways, they pay him the big bucks. He should get it right. But, basically you've changed your handle. It's at Calla Walsh is how people can reach you on Twitter, but it's Calla for Juan right now.
Yeah, and I encourage anyone else who is hoping Juan will win on Tuesday to also change their handle to first name for Juan if they're interested.
Yeah, we're talking about this election. To me, this election, I don't want to talk too much about myself because I got great guests, but it's personal because this was, after we legalized, this was the seat, Speaker DeLeo, who stopped us, changed the law, screwed up what we cover a lot, which is cannabis on this show, caused it's, and we actually did a protest of Speaker DeLeo. And now to see that we have an opportunity to have someone much better, Juan is running. And, there's basically Juan or bust as far as I'm seeing in this race. Dan, do you want to add anything about Juan as well? Where are you on this race?
Yeah, totally. I of course support him, and I think he's amazing. And I guess what I would like to add is just, that I recently got to speak with Gus Bickford. He's the chair of the state party, and when I spoke to him, I told him that young people, meaning millennials and under, are underrepresented within the formal wings of the party, but overrepresented in the streets. And I told him that he needs to watch out because, we're coming, and he can't rely on people in the nursing home to get elected forever. And so I think that really connects to what's going on here, because in the past few weeks, you've seen, millennials and Gen Z, but in particular Gen Z, really change the reshape this entire special election. I think somebody like Maura Healey should be embarrassed that she, weighed in. And this is not the first time that Maura Healey has endorsed a white man over a candidate of color. Candidates electeds always have a choice to just stay out of it, right? That's always an option. And, if she doesn't want to be a champion for these candidates, she can do that. But the problem is when you just, phone it in for some of these establishment picks. And to be clear, Tino is DeLeo's former aide, right? So that's, and when you endorse that person, and this comes up, it just reflects poorly. Is how
you're endorsing the system basically that has gotten us here, where we basically have, we're like this liberal utopia in Massachusetts, but it's not very liberal at the State House. They're all Democrats, but we had a transparency bill we're going to talk about in a second, and it was all Republicans who voted for it. The Democrats, in large majority, except for a few like Jamie Eldridge and Mike Conley, some of the folks that we just named who have endorsed Juan, the good representatives, it's crazy. They vote against us every time. But before we go there, because I want to ask you, Dan, you've been in the newspapers. There's been a scandal, a big scandal. Some homophobic things were said. And this, again, is about what's going on in the state of Massachusetts. The Mass Democrats are being challenged by a younger generation who just aren't going to take the same old BS that goes on. And basically, someone got called a homophobic. I think it was yourself got called some homophobic words on a stream. Where does that stand? I mean, I'm guessing you're still not happy about the outcome.
Yeah, just quickly, because I could, we could spend hours talking about it. If you haven't, viewers aren't familiar with the situation, I recommend checking out the Deconstructed podcast. They break down the incident really well. But there was an incident at a meeting of the Cambridge Democrats where I was called a homophobic slur by another member. And that's frankly, that's why Gus Bickford took a meeting with me. But I think what's astounding, when I met with him, my first question is, what's the plan to create a harassment and grievance process? And he said, they're working on it and they'll have one by next fall. And I said, next fall? And he said to me, don't worry, because it's not a primary season. It's not, the state primaries, not until next year. There won't be, there won't be any more scandals. And by the way, if there are any more scandals, I'll be able to step in because it won't be about a primary and I won't have to remain neutral. So within 2 weeks, he was proven wrong. And I just want to point out that we haven't seen any sort of statement from the Mass Dems, from the state committee, from anyone on the state committee. We've seen the Eastie Dems have asked Tino to step down as a member of the DSC, which I think can be built on, but the buck stops at the top. And again, Gus Bickford is failing to show leadership in a critical moment in this party.
And Gus Bickford, to just reference, he is the leader of the Democratic State Committee, right?
Yeah, he's in charge, and he's a national figure. I mean, this guy is relevant in the national party too, right? And he's just not being a leader in our party right now.
And there was already another, like, basically this homophobia thing got brought up too, where you got attacked with a slur. It was basically part of you were questioning some of the actions of what happened with Alex Morse, who was the Holyoke mayor who ran against Richard Neal. And there was a bunch of BS that went against him, a gay mayor. Is that true? Am I right on that?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
And they still haven't addressed that correctly.
The state party has not addressed the incident. It's been a deeply hurtful experience for a ton of us. The state committee is deeply split. And, I completely understand why a lot of young people look at that and just don't even give it any thought. And I was very clear with Gus Bickford about that. I said to him, look, I'm trying here, but there are people who are so disillusioned with your leadership that they're not even paying attention. And I can get 100 people at City Hall to talk about homelessness or policing on Monday night, and then on Tuesday night, the only people in the room in the Democratic Party space are over 60. So there's a disconnect there. And I hope he heard me. He didn't have much to say, but I hope he heard me.
Calla, you want to add anything on this?
Yeah, I mean, I stand with Dan. I honestly try to stay out of state party stuff just because I feel like it's just dominated by people who are so disconnected from the actual issues that are going on that it's kind of irrelevant to the work that I do. But I think when I saw this happen in Cambridge, I forgot to mention, I also live in Central Square in Cambridge. And when I saw that happen, in my own city that's considered to be like the most progressive in the country, I think that really hit me that like these spaces are not welcoming to young people, to queer people, to anyone from any sort of marginalized background. And Democrats that claim to, stand for equity are really just recreating the same inequities with all of these systems. So I'm really excited to like learn and start exploring ways to organize outside of the party. I am a DSA member, but if these spaces aren't welcoming, there's so many other problems too with the Democratic Party, but the bare minimum, if these spaces aren't welcoming for the same identities that the Democratic Party claims to protect, then I think there's really nothing that would make me want to, get involved or continue to support them.
Sad. It's such a like lost opportunity because of what's going on right now. And we're getting comments on our Facebook Live too that, Jeff says he left the party over it as well.
Yeah, I wanted to actually add, I really respect Calla's position on this, but I just want to add that it's not only young people. There was we'll call him a Bernie person who I asked to show up to our Cambridge Democrats meeting because he was on the roster and I needed the vote, and I got him to show up, and he saw what happened, and he has left the party. He resigned from the committee and left the party, right? And he's a boomer, right? So this is really about the party not being welcoming in many ways to the left.
Yeah, it's we also have some other comments earlier too from a friend of ours. She ran for district attorney. Linda Champion, she writes, she says she supports women of color, but campaigned hard against Elena Fonts for governor counselor. And she's talking about what we were talking about earlier, AJ Healy, which is, I think it's all the same. It seems like it to me anyways.
Yeah.
Do you want to comment on?
Linda makes a great point that Healy campaigned, not just endorsed, but actively campaigned against a lot of progressive candidates, against women candidates, against people of color who were running for office during the primary. And I know she's, one of the big names that's being floated for the Dems gubernatorial nominee in 2022. And just the fact that she's endorsing the same people, or she has endorsed the same people that Charlie Baker's super PAC backed, she's not even that different than our Republican governor. So I think that's just another reason why we need a strong candidate on the left rather than someone who doesn't even hold that much ideological difference than the incumbent.
What do you think about I think there's one candidate now. What do you think about him that we know on the Democratic side for governor?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very focused on the municipal races. And I think in 2022, I'll be more focused on, state rep primaries, state Senate races rather than the governor's race. But So far, Ben Downing, who's a former state senator who launched his campaign, seems great. I definitely want to see who else jumps in, but people I really trust, like Damali Vido and the Rivera consulting team, are behind him. And I think that's definitely a sign that he is a real progressive. So excited to see what comes out of that.
Dan, you want to add anything to what?
Yeah. Well, just one thing is that Damali is another example of somebody that Maura Healey endorsed against. She endorsed Dan Ryan in that primary.
That's unforgivable. I'm sorry. Damali is like, come on. That's just unforgivable.
It's sad, and you know what? I think
just that one. Yeah, go ahead.
I struggle to pay attention to the governor's race this early too. I mean, it's too early, but what's sad about it is that it does ultimately come back to the state party, right? Because they get to control who the primary nominee is. We got to sort of sidestep that whole rigmarole this past cycle because of the pandemic, but normally it's like all those people in that group and more get together and literally cast ballots to decide, who the party should support. And if you're a candidate for governor who doesn't get the support of the party, that's that's not where you want to be. It's very hard to win if another candidate has. So it's very frustrating because on one hand, these folks are asking us to care about this massive race with, and this potentially very uninspiring candidate. And on the other hand, like, there's just other options. Like, we can just focus on other stuff. And so, that's part of the problem here, I think, is that we're just going to do other stuff. And if they really want to take back the governor's seat, we've only had one Democratic governor in my lifetime, right? And if they want to take back the governor's seat, they need us, and they need to bring us in. And part of that means not just ignoring us.
There you go. We're almost out of time, unfortunately, because we're going to have Juan on very soon. But I want to give you like three last questions all at once. You decide what you want to go with. Number one, anything you want to talk about, anything you want to promote. Number two, why you specifically why are you supporting Juan? That's what I really want to get to again, because we're going to be talking to Juan in a second. And I guess I don't even know what the final thing is. There was one more. Oh, I know. Obviously, Calla. I want to hear about transparency. I want to hear about this bill because, again, I think this lines up with what happened this week, where more Republicans voted for something that we all want, which is transparency at the state house. There's more transparency at the local level on the city and towns. They have FOIA requests. We know nothing. They hide their votes. So tell us about that, Calla, and what happened with that bill and where it's going as well.
Yeah, well, that's also a great segue to talking about Juan, since Act on Mass has actually endorsed him, and he's a great supporter of transparency. But basically what happened was after our initial conversation a couple of weeks ago, the House Rules vote, which typically happens in January or February, got pushed back to July, which is super unprecedented. It got pushed back by 6 months because so many people had been advocating for changes in the rules. So they wanted to look them over and potentially change a lot of stuff in the rules book. But what happened on Wednesday was that, Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday was that there was a vote on the rules for joint committees, which are committees that have House and Senate members. So the House was voting on what their rules should be. And the Senate had already unanimously passed their rules package, which included a lot more transparency than the House package did. But Rep. Erica Eiderhoven, who was actually the co-founder of Act on Mass, introduced Amendment number 8 to this package that would make all committee votes public and posted online like the Senate already does, make testimony publicly available, and also provide a week notice for all committee hearings. And the amendment was defeated 36 in favor, 122 against. The majority of the yes votes were Republicans, and then a few progressive reps. So I think it's very clear that this is a loss. It's disappointing, but I'm just way more fired up to hold the people who voted no accountable. It was really disappointing to see some so-called progressive reps actually get up on the floor and spread lies about what the amendment would do and slander the advocacy work that Act on Mass and our coalition, which isn't just us, it's youth-led, it's climate activist organizations, teachers unions, so many different progressive groups, to basically slander our work, spread lies about what we're doing, and defeat the amendment. And I think it shows how needed changes in the State House. The fact that so few people are willing to stand up to leadership and actually say that we need change and we need to give our constituents more of a voice. So personally, I'm excited to primary a lot of the people who, are standing against us, because I think it provides a really cool opportunity where constituents across the state, this was supported with a 90% average when it was on the ballot. Constituents across the state have been organizing for months, asking their reps to support them. And in some cases, reps said to their constituents' faces, yes, I support transparency. Yes, I'm a real progressive. Yes, I will vote for public committee votes. And then go into the State House the next day and vote no. So I think they're really just exposing themselves. And now we can do the work of holding them accountable and spreading the word to their constituents. Hey, this is how your rep voted. Call them and tell them you're not happy. Let's, increase the pressure that we're putting on them and hopefully come back in July when the full rules package is being voted on with much stronger demands.
Awesome. Act on Mass is how people can get involved in that movement.
Yep. actonmass.org.
Awesome. I love that. And it's so much needed at the State House. It is just, it's so funny too. They were patronizing. Like they were just like, these young kids don't know any better. Like we know what we're doing. We don't need this. It's like, it's not working. What's happening at the State House is not working for the people. It's so clear. It's not working for the people who are voting and that are involved, the younger people now, especially. Dan, where do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll pick up on the transparency for a second. I think that it's just insane. Just to reiterate, some of these reps, like they're supposed to be progressive, they're supposed to be standing with us, and then they don't vote for this. And it's really simple, right? The Senate version of this bill was passed unanimously, and the amendments that were introduced by Erica were just bringing it up to what the Senate had passed unanimously, right? And so for progressive reps to be arguing on social media that somehow that's not what was happening, that somehow they were justified in voting no because there was something wrong with the amendment, for example, that's just misleading and discouraging and frustrating. And the other thing I'd say is that, if you're upset about what is going on at the State House with transparency, this is the most effective thing you can do. Is this coming weekend, phone bank, text bank, canvas, donate, whatever you can do to make this put him over the finish line, put Juan over the finish line, because every seat we flip matters, and we have to win these little skirmishes when all eyes are on one race like this. The progressives need to win. And the last thing I'll say is just, if you live in Cambridge, on Tuesday night, there's a proposal to put a Citizens Bank where Rodney's bookstore used to be, and we're going to fight it at 6:30. If you're around, I'll send you information on it, but please make time Tuesday night. We're going to fight them, and we're going to make sure Citizens Bank doesn't open up there. But I also just want to thank both of you immensely. This has been really fun, and I'm really excited that the movement is growing and that we're able to do stuff like this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan Totten. Where can people find you? You have social media?
Twitter. Just search for Dan Totten.
Is it Dan_Totten?
Yeah, I think there's 2 underscores. It's Dan__Totten. And you can also listen to that podcast. Is pinned on my Twitter.
Awesome. And Calla Walsh, I'm sure you have more, because there is always more to talk about. What do you want to leave us with tonight? Because we have Juan in the waiting room here. He's here.
Yeah, well, I will let Juan get started, but I'll just say I was on the phone through him right before I came on to this stream, and people are really fired up about his campaign. I I heard members of the people who are filmmaking, talk to entire families who are voting for him, talk to people who didn't even know there was a special election and already committed to voting for him. So I think he's building really incredible momentum, and I hope you guys have a good conversation. He is just an amazing candidate.
Awesome. Anything specific, like any quick question you want us to ask him tonight?
I think it would be fun to ask him about his plan to free the T, just because I know he's the only candidate in the race who supports fair, free public transportation.
Like the Michelle Wu proposal, basically.
Yep, but at the state level, so everyone can enjoy it. I think that would be a good topic to ask him about. I
will definitely ask him. Thank you, Calla Walsh, and thank you, Dan Totten. And it's at Calla Walsh on Twitter. Yep. If you're not following her, you're crazy. You get so much information. I want to thank you both. You guys are both awesome, Dan and Calla. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now we're going to bring up, going to add him right in. We got Juan here, who's running for Massachusetts State. Oh, yeah, she just left. But yeah, perfect. You got the crossover though. That was cool.
Cool.
Yeah, you got to say hi. And you heard everything them talking about you too, right?
Yeah, they're great. Obviously, they're amazing organizers here and really inspiring. I was a youth organizer at one point, and I'm just so happy to see so much youth energy in our state now. This is exactly why I'm running, to continue this type of youth-led movements and involvement in our political system.
I love it, and you me too. Like for me, like I basically got involved in this stuff through cannabis. Actually, I'm a medical patient, or my back was an old jock and all that.
Yeah.
And I started there, and I was like the youngest guy back then. I was like the Gen X. Yeah. And it was all these baby boomers. It's all these World War II vets and stuff. And now, I felt like I was alone. I was like the young leader among that movement, and I got burnt out fighting those people, like just trying to. And now I just look at it. It's like all of like women and especially in that movement, there weren't people of color there. There weren't women. There weren't young people. Now it's just taken over by it. And I think that's same thing happened in the political scene. Like I'm seeing that all over the place. Like when we first started this show, we didn't get winning campaigns on. And then we started getting winning campaigns. Mike Connolly was like the first one. And now we just seem to win. And I think you're going to win. I think Calla thinks you're going to win. You got Bernie Sanders endorsement. You got we listed them all. Our Revolution. There's more. They just keep coming in. Alex Vargas. So tell us about yourself though, because I want to hear about you. I know that you're a union organizer. Are you still a union organizer? Because I'm into that big time. Tell us about you, who you are, your background.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike, and also thanks for you and what you do with the young Yerks, And this is a great show, and I truly enjoy it as well. I get a lot of my inside scoops from the work that you do here, so I appreciate what you do. But so my name is Juan Jaramillo. For those of you who have not gotten a chance to know about me, I'm an immigrant. My story starts in the U.S. when I land in 2000.
From where? You're an immigrant from where?
I'm an immigrant from Colombia. Yeah, and you were just talking about like decriminalization and stuff like that, right? Like the drug war has a direct connection to my immigration story, right? The violence of the drug war in Colombia, led for enough stability that my parents felt that it was no longer safe for us to be there. And so I landed right here in Revere. I've never really moved. I've been kind of a townie, if you will, as much as an immigrant can be a townie. I grew up here. I played sports here, and then I went to college. I didn't want to leave. I loved Revere so much that I actually went to the only public institution in Boston, UMass Boston. And
awesome.
I did. Yeah, it's great.
I'm a state school kid too, and I used to work over at UMass Boston, so I love you, EUMB. Go ahead. We have a lot in common already. Keep going.
Nice. Where'd you go to school, Mike?
Bridgewater State.
Oh, Bridgewater. I have some friends that went to Bridgewater State, and UMass doesn't have quite the atmosphere, but I always did end up down in Bridgewater State doing more college things.
Keg stands.
Yeah, I wasn't a big keg stand guy. Listen. no shade here, but it always felt like a real white boy type of thing.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to dance.
I'm one of those white boys who did it like a fool. Like now I look at it, like there was a certain point where you get and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's just dumb. What are you doing?
That's not to say I never did a keg stand. I have. It just wasn't. But it was like my friends were always like, and my friends that went to like Bridgewater State. I had friends at like Boston College. They were always Latinx or black friends. So like, we were like dancing. We were ready to dance all the time, right? So that's what we did. But no shade. Hey, listen, I see some white boys that can dance.
Not me.
So I went to UMass Boston. I was organizing with Revere Youth in Action at the time. I was also, which we worked on a couple of things. We worked on minimum wage increase, $15 an hour, paid family and medical leave. Young people, like I said, right when I jumped on, young people helped deliver that for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, right? Like I was just lucky enough to be a partner in that as a program director for Revere Youth in Action. We were part of the Raise Up Coalition that got that work done. And, at a young age, at the same time, right, because that was a full-time volunteer job, but at the same time, I was cleaning ICU beds at Mass General Hospital to help pay for college and help my parents around the house. And so, but really at a young age, I kind of like got stuck into public service because my dad worked 80 hours a week. My mom worked 2 jobs as well. And it never quite clicked with me why they were working so much, sacrificing so much time from being home, from their bodies, from their rest, sacrificing time with me selfishly, right? And still struggling to make ends meet. So that's why things like paid family and medical leave and Raise Up Coalition's entire mission resonated with me, and I got attracted to it. Then I went on. I got dragged away to political campaigning. I had worked on another campaign of the former registrar of probate. Her name was Patty Campitelli. She was an interesting character for sure. But that was my very first campaign. We won that campaign
with Felix, right?
No.
So
Patty ran when. Oh my goodness, I forget who was running the department before that, but Patty Campitelli ran against Sal LaMattina here in Boston. They were the only 2 people running in Suffolk County. And Sal was her counselor in Eastie, and she beat him. That was the very first campaign I volunteered on. I was like her driver, chauffeur guy, but like it was a lot of fun though. I was like 18. I was like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and I learned a lot about what to do and what not to do in politics. But then fast forward, I started working with Senator Boncory. I was his field director when he ran for state senate in a crowded 7-people field to replace former state senator Anthony Petroselli. And when we won, he brought me on to be his legislative director. And then right after that, which is my most recent employment, is as political coordinator for.
You're laughing at some of the comments were flashing. I'm sorry to interrupt you. For anyone listening on the podcast, we flash the live comments, and you're laughing at them. But sorry to have those comments interrupt you. No, it's good. Listen, it's good. I need the comments, but because my mind goes a mile a minute anyway. So I left Senator Boncory's job about 2 years ago, and I've been working at SEIU Local 32BJ as a political coordinator. Working, our union represents 20,000 service workers, frontline workers. And which union is it?
SEIU. Local,
SEIU. Yeah. Okay.
Local 32BJ. So in Massachusetts, our local represents, like I said, 20,000 frontline workers in Rhode Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire, and that's where I took a lot of pride in, because I was a former janitor. We represent janitors, so for me, my life kind of came real full circle when I took that job. And every day that I do go into work, I actually learn more than I feel like I learn more than I can offer about solidarity, about the movement, about, just the need for people to survive and to thrive and to fight for their families and their community. And, the members of Local 32 BJ embody that kind of spirit of perseverance and hard work. And so, so we, it's a great job. I love that job. I got to say, when I win this thing, I'm going to miss it. So, but I'm running because of them. I'm running because, this community, when I first moved here, it was a different community. It has changed, and people are demanding and deserve representation.
No, we got a lot of questions for you.
I'm here for it.
Number one, Calla Walsh left her the free MBTA question. Where do you stand on the free MBTA?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. We have we have the projections on the cost. A lot of very, very good organizations here. They're escaping the name right now because it's been a whirlwind of a day, but have done the research. It's a drop in the bucket. It's less than 1% of our state budget to free the T, and what that less than 1% represents is first from like a ideological standpoint, right? Like if we start treating the T as the public good that it is, that means we'll be able to fund it like the public good that it is, right? Like we over the past 3 years we've been talking about, how do we fund transportation, education? Let's fully fund it, right? We don't fully fund the T because we keep talking about it like it was a commodity, but it's not. It's something. It's a vital need. Like we need the water and sewer system. Like we need our public education system. So,
especially in Boston too. Like it's
right.
We're so congested. It's like
exactly
it's a life issue for everybody.
But even beyond Boston, right? Like if we want to remove that congestion, we have to expand in the infrastructure. We have to invest in the infrastructure to expand the system, right? To get us to Worcester in 20 minutes and 30 minutes, as opposed to however long it takes for so many working families that are driving in and out of from Worcester to Boston. And then we can talk about expanding towards towards the western part of the state, right? Towards Springfield and Holyoke and Greenfield and Pittsfield and all these areas, right? That they have RTAs and that's good, but we have to first move the conversation that this is a public good, and we do that by freeing the T, by making it access, removing what I call the tax on working people, which is what it is, and making that investment. It's a drop in the bucket. It's less than 1% of the Massachusetts state budget. I used to be a budget director in the Massachusetts State Senate, and I can tell you we can definitely afford this thing. Like I keep saying this, right? Because of who it affects, right? Like who freeing the T affects, right? My dad is a frontline worker. He works at not one but two major hospitals here in Boston, the Boston area. And at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, "Hey, Dad, like, how many people are on your wagon today?" He's like, "There's 2 or 3 people, son. Nothing crazy. We can all spread out nicely." Oh, good. And then at some point, Charlie Baker, in his omnipotent wisdom, decided it was a good idea to cut service. And I'm Dad, how many people were on the train today? In the dead heat of the pandemic. He said, "Oh, there was like 10 people today." I'm like, "Well, now I'm getting alarmed, right? Like now social distancing means less." And if I was a conspiracy theorist, I would say that maybe it was on purpose, right? Like the communities that are going into work are largely Black and brown working class communities, and we know that Charlie Baker doesn't care about them. So, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist. So
you're a realist. You know how it works.
So I'm not going to claim that that's what's happening here. But
yeah. So let's talk about Charlie Baker. You brought him up and the COVID response, because now his new thing is to open everything up, including the schools, including Fenway Park. I mean, I know there's some restriction on the numbers in terms of what they're going to allow at Fenway Park, but he's talking about indoor events as well. I mean, Fenway may not be as much of an issue if people have space and there's only 10%, but indoor stuff and especially schools. What do you think about him trying to open up schools, which is to me shocking. Like in April, he's talking about. It's like, why can't you just wait until at least September?
Yeah.
But he wants to open them like right now. Like he's trying to, and there's no like real backup. Like there's not like a lot of resources to the schools for testing. There's not, not all the students are, going to abide by the masks. We know that.
Yeah.
And, this is indoors and the teachers don't have vaccines. What's your response to that?
All right. So multiple things, right? I think that we're going right into a gubernatorial year. And, he probably wants to show some progress, right? Like he wants to say, hey, look, we got out of this, right? I got you out of this, reelect me or whatever, right? And so I think that maybe be driving his push to reopen.
It sure seems like it.
It sure does.
Doesn't it?
It does. And we were the bottom 25, about a half of the country that closed or that put any real restrictions on businesses and schools back in March of last year. We're still struggling. Communities like Revere and Winthrop in particular got hammered by this thing. And he's like, let's reopen. You know what how do you tell a community like Revere, right, where the student body is majority non-white, right, where most of the workers that are in this community are frontline work, or a lot of the workers that are in this community are frontline workers? Yeah, we're going to put your kids back in school, and we're not going to vaccinate teachers, and maybe we're going to send your kid back with a surprise. Like, how do you tell that after putting them through this for a year? I mean, it's the type of short-sightedness he's characterized by this, right? Like this is his MO. But it's just bad public policy. What he should have done is, there should have been equity approach to the vaccine distribution, which there wasn't. And now he's trying to work on that or whatever he's trying to do, but there just wasn't an equity approach, right? Like if I was the governor of Massachusetts, which I'm not, and I'm not running for governor, let me be clear, I'm running for state rep, but I would have looked at the hardest hit zip codes with this thing. I said, all right, we're going to allocate a lot of vaccines to this particular zip code here. They have the comorbidities, they have the vulnerable population. This is where we're going to start. But instead, he opted for the weird phase-in that he did with 75-year-olds. A lot of people who were dying from this, even before this, don't live to 75. And this pandemic has cut the life expectancy by 2 to 3 years in a lot of these communities. So, but again, short-sightedness. He gets to go to Swampscott every day, and he gets to, jump in his Ford Explorer with all these people that are corral him, and then he gets to use tunnel vision and not have to watch how disparaged our communities have become. And good for him, good for him. But it's just bad public policy. It's so frustrating. Honestly, every time I talk about it, it's just frustrating.
It is.
To think about it, and so I think we should open our public schools, but let's vaccinate every single teacher.
That's right.
And every single school person, that's administrator, or even from the teacher to the janitorials, the custodial staff. I agree. Kids need it. They need to go back to school, but we can't put our teachers at risk for that. It's just not worth it. So we just have to be smarter about it, man. Now we're in a big hurry to open stuff up, right? And
because Charlie Baker screwed up. I mean, that's basically what it seems like.
Yeah,
we have some other questions here. One of the questions that came up right away is what we were talking about earlier. Do you support I put the wrong comment up. There it is. Do you support legislative transparency? What are your thoughts on this week's rules vote?
Yeah, of course. No, I do. I signed the voters deserve to know pledge to which calls on roll call, standing for roll call votes, committing to release my my personal committee votes, ensuring that the House rules reflect that as well, that we're being able to, release committee votes, stuff like that. I think that what we see this week, I heard a little bit of what you were talking about. Every time we flip a seat towards this is what's going to make the difference. And what we see the seat is just we have a lot of work to do still, right? And we have a big opportunity on Tuesday to do that. I'm gonna be the ninth vote in that roll call on the Democratic side, and it's part of the movement, it's part of doing the work. Like I'm gonna support colleagues that are gonna be doing that, and I'm gonna fight for colleagues that are gonna be doing that. And it's part of the work, like with everything. I think that this is a conversation that's like not sexy, right? Like people aren't talking about people want to hear about free the tea and healthcare for all and like all this stuff. So how do you bring this to communities, right? You tell them, hey, you don't get that stuff unless we ensure we have good transparency in the state house. But also like we got to be real. Like the conversation is it's very heady. It moves itself within like academic circles and very white circles and privileged circles, and like it hasn't quite hit like a lot of folks, right? Like communities like Chelsea or like us here in Revere, or like and like so that education process is part of the movement towards that too, right? And that's why it's so important to continue to support candidates that understand that and that can talk to those communities, right? Like.
That's what drives me crazy. I mean, we go up there, like where I came from in the cannabis movement. We go up there every year. We know we had popular support. We'd have bills, and they would kill them in committee. They would never let it come to a floor vote, and they would hide their vote. So you couldn't even tell. You'd have to, secretly find out through one of the committee members if they would leak the vote to you. I mean, it's just everything is done in secret. It's a club up there. And we need transparency, and we need new rules. It's so obvious. We're speaking to Juan Jaramillo. Did I say your last name right?
Yeah, you got it.
I got it right. Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Yeah. I'd say you're 90% there. Jaramillo. No, you got the last part right. Oh, you got it.
All right.
Yeah, honestly, the first time you did it was good. Maybe I'm messing you up there.
Well, it's me. I grew up with speech impediment issues, so I'm like a Joe Biden type guy.
Same here. Don't worry about it.
The stuttering and all that. And now I host a show, so
yeah, same here.
You can do anything. If Joe Biden can be president and get harassed by all the QAnon people about his stuttering, you can do anything. It's my view.
Hey, listen, if you're running for president, let me know.
No, not me. I'm not running for anything. I'm just doing the shows. I like doing the shows, asking the questions. I like this. This is fun.
This is good.
Yeah, well, and I like supporting the workers. That's one of the big issues that we have. One of the big things that we've supported over the years is, workers, especially worker rights. I got a question. I'm not even sure what this question is about. We're just going to ask it to you. Juan, join New Urbanist Memes for Transit-Oriented Teens Challenge. Do you even know what they're asking you?
I know the page, and I know the page well. There's like the New Urbanist Memes for Transit-Oriented Teens, the page, right, on Facebook. I just know it exists, and I'm all about it. A buddy of mine who I worked in the State House with is big on trains. I'm actually going to give him a quick shout out. His name is Chris Smith. I have a running joke that even when he was a child, they called him Christopher Trains Smith. And he's a big train guy, and so he told me about the memes for transit-oriented teens, and we joke about it all the time.
I think that might be him. He might be the Facebook user, because when they don't, they don't sign up through the StreamYard, it doesn't show their name. So that's probably him. I bet it is. I bet it's Chris Train Smith.
Yeah,
he is the Facebook.
Smith. Yeah, for sure. No, it probably is him. So he loves trains. He loves them. Probably as much as I love him, maybe a little bit more. I gotta say, he really loves trains. I talked to him about this. He takes the train everywhere. Like he's helping out. He's a close friend, and he's helping out on my campaign. And he takes the train from Somerville. He came to a party. We were friends, like actual really close friends. He came to he went to a wedding in like Ashland or something, and found the most transit-oriented route took his bike for the places where there wasn't like any trains or buses running. Like this man
All about the trains.
loves the public transportation. And honestly, he's taught me a lot about how we can how to talk about the issue and how important it is for working class folks.
It's funny. I didn't expect to talk so much about transportation and trains tonight, but that's pretty much a lot of the content tonight, which, I think it's just, speaks to the politics. People definitely like the public transportation. A quick point of information, maybe you can help us out with. Someone asked a question: has Tino dropped out yet? Do you know? I mean, I haven't seen any statement that he's dropped out. Do you happen to know?
Let me first start with categorically saying that I stand by and believe survivors. My fiance, I talk to her about this every night because she's actually a sexual assault counselor at the North Shore Rape Crisis Center, and I get my cues on this issue from her, but just also from trying to be the best man that I can be. And so, to my knowledge, he hasn't dropped out, we'll see where this goes. I mean, I think that my guess is he probably thinks he's on the ballot anyway, so he's going to just ride it out. But that should not overshadow the fact that there are people that are. Oh, hey, Terry.
So it was actually Terry Alder who.
I do love Terry too. He's a good guy. He's a good friend. Great friend. But let that not distract from the fact that we have to continue to encourage spaces where for survivors to speak out against sexual violence.
And you do have to go. I think you have something with Ayanna Pressley coming up right at 8:00, right?
Yeah, in about 3 minutes. But I got 3 minutes for you. Listen,
so tell us why people should vote for you in Winthrop and Revere. Their closing spiel. Tell us.
I love running. I run on LST, not LSD. LST, although we should probably decriminalize LSD, which is Latino Standard Time, which is always a little behind. So, so I think that people should get involved and vote for me because we've seen the reckoning that this country has gone through in the last year, and a lot of it, and when I say reckoning, I almost mean it in a positive way, has been led by young people. And that's what this campaign is about. It's about building the future for young people. And we build that future by supporting workers, by supporting the most marginalized people in our communities, Black and brown folks, working class families, women, femmes, people in the LGBTQ community. And that's what this campaign has been all about the entire time. Unfortunately, we have really sad candidates in this race. We have a pro-Trump Democrat who says that is anti-choice, anti-science, was pushing hydroxychloroquine on people when people were dying, which I think is just reckless. The one thing Charlie Baker did was put a mask policy in place, and he was mocking the mask policy. And so this is a working class district with a large population of Black and brown folks, with a large population of young people. And they're clamoring for really strong representation they know they're going to have their back. At a forum yesterday, that opponent, the hydroxychloroquine guy, said, and what Juan won't tell you is he got it supported by all the teachers unions, so that's why he doesn't want to open our school. He wants to have our kids out of school forever. And I said, listen, man, I just want to keep them safe, and I'm damn proud to have the support of our teachers and our working class folks, and I am, and I'm going to be unabashed about it every single time because my whole life has been about rolling up my sleeves, quite literally cleaning shit when I worked at Mass General, and being people to people, like real people, and like seeing people for where they are at, try to meet them where they're at, and we need that, I think, more in Massachusetts politics, right? And and so I'd love it if people can help us out. We're in the final stretch here, and we need all hands on deck because we have people trying to buy this race from working class folks. So visit us at juanforrep.com. We'd love to see you down here. We have Ayanna Pressley coming down to Rumney Marsh Academy in Revere tomorrow to kick off a canvas, and we have her on in about actually now. Not to take any of your audience away, but
no, they should.
If you check out,
that's what I'm gonna be doing next.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I already signed up for it.
Dope.
And your website again is juanforrep.com.
Yeah, just like you have it spelled here, but all together and .com. And come and join. We have a GOTV rally with Ayanna Pressley, with other community leaders here in Revere that are leading the fight against the rich and well-connected.
Awesome. I'm going to let you go for that. But before I do, I got one more quick micro question, and you answer yes or no. There's something we cover big is cannabis. And right now there's host community agreements that are keeping a lot of the smaller players out of the market. It's become a bidding war. And we're trying to get rid of the host community agreements, do some reform, just basic reform, even, basically have them even follow the spirit of the law. The cities and towns are out of control. Is that something you would support for smaller players, people of color, to get into the industry, or something you would even look at?
Yeah, I mean, we have to. I know this for a fact. Is actually I was there when we rewrote the referendum, which was, by the way, written the way that it was written by big industries, not by the little guy, not by the communities that have been suffering from the drug war for 50 years, 60 years, but by big business. So, you caught me a little off guard. I haven't quite delved into it, to be honest. But if whatever we need to do, and if people are saying that we need to do something about the host community agreements to ensure equity, then I'm willing to support it. Right? Again, I have to make a public opinion.
No, I get it. You need to know more about it.
I know a little bit more about it, but if that's what we got, if that's where we land, that's where we land, and if that's where the facts lead us in terms of how we ensure equity, then that's where the facts lead us. We just have to. I mean, like I said, I opened up the show, right? My story is tied to the drug war. My diaspora, the diaspora of hundreds of thousands of Colombian immigrants and Dominican immigrants and Brazilian immigrants and Mexican immigrants is tied to the quote-unquote drug war, which is only a war on black and brown people here and black and brown countries abroad. That's what it is. So
thank you so much, Juan. Rep.com. Tuesday they can vote for you in Winthrop and Revere. Thank you.
Sign up to help us out. Thank you. See you in a second. Ciao.
Yeah, we'll see you with on your talk, and what do you call this? Get out the vote with Ayanna Pressley?
Yeah, this is Get Out the Vote with Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley.
Awesome. Good luck with that. We'll be part of that next, and we invite everyone to join Juan for that as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Take care.
Bye now. We're the Young Jerks, and Mike Crawford checking out. That was a great show. I want to thank Juan for Rep for joining us tonight. I also want to thank Calla Walsh and Dan Totten and all our listeners and comments. If you are just checking us out for the first time, definitely follow us on Twitter at the Young Jerks or at Facebook. We're also on we got a lot of places now. We're on YouTube as well, and that other place, what is it called? I can't even remember right now. It's where all the kids play video games. You know the place, Twitch. We're also on Twitch, so follow us in all those places if you're so liking us tonight. My name is Mike Crawford, Young Jerks. I want to thank again Juan for Rep for coming on tonight. Juanforrep.com. He's running for election state rep. Definitely endorsing him. You should definitely vote for him Tuesday in Winthrop, in Revere. And I also want to thank Calla Walsh from Act on Mass from coming on, and Dan Totten from Cambridge. Again, it's Mike Crawford checking out. We'll talk real soon again. Later.